This is probably the cleanest Honda CR250 I've ever seen. I mean, it is immaculate. All original. Crazy good condition. I just picked this thing up for 2,000 bucks, which I thought was a pretty good deal considering the condition. Like I said, I've never seen one this clean before. The seller stated that right now it does not run. He said it last ran a couple of years ago, but it was extremely boggy and really hard to start. And he said there's a bunch of black oily substance coming out of the exhaust. So he thought it was running really rich, so he parked it, was gonna get around to fixing it, but just never did. So that's when he sold it to me for $2,000. But yeah, I mean, check this bike out. This is all original. This is 2001. Just one tiny dent in the pipe there. But I mean, that's all original paint on there, original graphics, original seat. It doesn't look like it's been ridden very hard, that's for sure. Check out the bottom of the engine here. Yeah, it's basically perfect. I've never seen one like this before. So, if we can get this one running and driving today, I think we got a steal. So, as long as the bottom end and top end is fine, we have a pretty good chance at getting this thing to run today. But we're gonna dig into it, get this thing out the trailer, and see what we find. The first thing we're gonna do is kick it over a couple times, make sure that crank is good, make sure it's not locked up, and just kind of go through the whole thing. So let's get this one out the trailer and we'll start digging into it. Alright, we'll walk around, a couple close-up shots of this bike. I just can't believe how nice this thing is. I wonder if there's an hour meter on here. We'll have to figure that out. Looks like the only aftermarket part are the bars and the grips, and obviously the gauge here. I mean, they don't come much cleaner than that. Looks like all the original gas lines and carburetor lines. Possibly the original sprockets and chain as well. Wow. Alright, let's kick this thing over a couple times, see what it sounds like. Who knows, maybe this thing will fire right up. Alright, doesn't want to go, but it sounds really smooth kicking it over. So I don't think there's a rod bearing bad, and I don't think the top end's bad. But yeah, it sounded pretty smooth, so let's get this thing in the garage and start digging into it. Well, we got this bike in the garage. Let's start going through it. I think the first thing we're going to check is the oil. That'll give us a clue as to if that water pump seal is still good. If it's milky, that means that the water pump seal is leaking. So take that off. It looks like this thing takes, let's see, where is it? Oh, right there, 850 milliliters. There's the check bolt for the oil too. We can check that out. But looking in here, looking at the clutch basket right now. No grooves at all in the clutch basket. That's pretty good. Yeah, I really don't think this bike has many hours. Alright, let's see if we can reach down there. Behind the clutch, we might have to take off that check bolt. So far it's looking pretty clear. Let's check it out. Put our paper towel underneath in case it drips. Yep, you can see it's just dripping out. So oil level is perfect. So far, we're off to a pretty good start. All right, let's see if the throttle moves up and down. Yep. Let's check the gas. See if there's anything in here. Yep, it's filled up quite a bit. Let's take a look at that gas, see what that looks like. Petcock is right here. Let's get this line off. Ooh, line's pretty hardened up. There's gas coming out though. Let's see what it looks like. See if it's mixed. I'm sure it is. Oh yeah. Got the purple oil in there. See if there's any water in the gas. Looks like Gatorade, doesn't it? I don't see any water separation at all. Looks like it was mixed pretty heavily. That looks a little heavier than 40-1, doesn't it? Well, there's gas. Petcock's working good. Good gas flow. Great gas flow. So I don't think that was a problem at all. Let's see what's underneath the seat. Not a single rip in that seat cover. Pretty nice. Take a look at the air filter. Yep. Looks good. No rips in the air filter. It's a twin air in there, all oiled up, looking good. So I don't think it sucked anything in. And there's grease behind there as well. So somebody installed the air filter correctly. Okay. So there's the coolant temp sensor. So I don't think it probably would have overheated because the guy had the temp right on the gauge here to look at. Not seeing any leaking around the head. Oh, what's that? That's a little bit of leaking there. Let's get a flashlight. Might just be gas though. Does that look wet to you guys in there? That might just be gas. It looked pretty wet though. Hard to tell. Maybe it's just sweating a little bit. But yeah, looking at the base gasket down here, nothing really leaking. So I don't think it's a head gasket. You'd see coolant leaking out of here, especially when you kick it over and push that coolant out. Yeah, looking pretty good. All right, well, let's get the plug out and we'll see what the color of the plug is. That'll tell us how it was running. Let's see what that looks like. I'm guessing it's really black. He said it was smoking a lot. Oh, it's really white. Interesting. That is very interesting. Look at that. Extremely white. So either he put a new plug in there, or this thing was running extremely lean. That is very interesting. I thought for sure it would be black. You can even see some like oil coming out of the spark plug hole there. So yeah, I was not expecting that. Let's check the coolant and we'll do a quick test. Ooh, look at that. That just exploded out. Definitely could be a head gasket. So there was pressure built up in the radiator. Because when you take that cap off, it should not pour out of there like that. And that would explain the white plug as well. It could be coolant washing off that plug. What we're going to do is put the plug back in, kick it over, and if you see coolant shooting out of it as you kick it over, it's definitely a head gasket problem. So let's give it a shot. Alright. Now, take a look at the coolant. We'll kick it over. Nothing shooting out. You can see it pour out of there. Alright, so I don't think it's a head gasket. It is interesting though that when you took that cap off, it shot out, unless the breather here is not breathing. Let's see. Doesn't look clogged. Hope to keep an eye on that. But yeah, our little test we did for the head gasket pass. Alright, let's ground up the plug, see if we have spark. No, maybe it lost spark. Take a peek. Zoom in on that a little bit. Hopefully that's pretty clear. I'd say that's pretty good spark. See if it's consistent. Yep. Looks pretty blue. So it is sparking. Well, that checks out. That definitely wasn't the problem. So let's do a compression test on this thing. Typically on a 250, you want to see like 170 to 200 psi. If it's a good running 250. A lower end one would have like 140, 150 in that range. So let's see what we get for compression. All right, let's go ahead and get the compression tester in. Let's see what we get. This should tell us a lot. All right. It feels like it has quite a bit. I'm guessing like 185 is my guess. All right, let's do throttle open. Kick this thing over a couple times, see what we get. So far at 160, I think it's still climbing. hard to kick it over. Really shot up there. We're gonna have plenty of compression here. Yeah. Alright, where are we at? That's exactly 185. 50, 60, 70, 80. Exactly 185. Wow. That's pretty good. That's really good. We're right in that sweet range of compression, so it's definitely not compression causing any issues. Alright, that checks out. Well, we've got great spark, great compression. Let's check out the carb. You know, if the carb's good, there's no reason this thing should not fire up. So let's take a look at the carb and go through that, see what's going on. Alright, with these CR250s, the carb's kind of tucked away in there. I'm going to take off the subframe. We'll see. That might be the easiest option. Yeah, we're going to take the subframe off, or at least just flip it out. Alright, that subframe should pop up now. Let's see. Is it held on by anything? Sometimes that pipe can get in the way. Let's just take off that silencer. Now it should push up out of here. I think it's getting caught on the boot actually. Alright. Now when you try to take off this carb, got the original Mikuni carb on there. See if that slide is going up and down. Yep. Alright, everything looks pretty decent there on the outside. Choke, is that working? Alright, let's get the slide out. We'll have to check the needle clip position on here. But from the plug it looks like it was running lean. Alright, let's take a peek inside the carb. We'll have to blow through all the lines as well, make sure those are clear. Lots of gas in there. So it was getting gas. Let's see what that looks like. There's gotta be something wrong with the carb, right? flow looks really clean. See if there's any crud in there. A little bit, but nothing horrible. See if the flow is working. Yep, the flow is working. Weird. Everything looks pretty good. Take this float off. Check out your needle. Looks brand new. Pin looks good, nice and straight. Float looks good. Let's see if it's jetted correctly. Let's see if that O-ring in there is fine. If that O-ring is bad, gas can leak through the carb and make it run rich. So we'll take a peek at that. Yeah, O-ring looks good. No gunk in the seat. Looks like we're running a 420 main and a 30 pilot. Let's get those out. That was clear. Maybe that's clogged. Aha! Pilot's clogged, so that's probably why it wasn't firing up. Completely clogged up. So I wonder if that was the whole problem as to why this thing wasn't firing. But the guy said it smoked a ton too, so obviously that's not the problem causing the smoking issue. Everything else looks pretty good. There's the air screw here. So it turns out we are 1.5 exactly, so that's perfect. See if it's running the stock jets. I'm sure it is, but it doesn't hurt to double check. There's a spring. There's the air screw. Yeah, everything checks out. Looks pretty decent. That looks good. Yeah, choke looks good. So carb checks out, everything besides the pilot. So the pilot was just a little bit clogged. Alright, just looked at the jetting. It looks like a lot of guys are running the same setup, 420 main and then 30 pilot. And then I guess a lot of guys run second clip on the needle. And the needle they run is, let's see what they said, an H275 needle. And then that was for like a 70 to 80 degree day. So we'll see. I mean, we're right in that area. But we gotta check out the needle clip position, see what that's at. But yeah, everything looked good. So the seller said this thing was boggy, smoking a lot, just not running right. And he didn't tell me when it was boggy, like 3/4 throttle, 1/4 throttle, you know, full throttle. I'm guessing it was like right around 3/4 to full throttle is when it was boggy. But I have no idea, he never went into details about that. All he said it was hard to start, and he thought it was running really rich. So let's take a look at the needle position and just see if that's in the correct spot here. Alright. Alright, here it comes. Right in the center. So I'm guessing that's stock setting there. So we're just going to leave that. We have to play around with that a little bit. If we get this thing to run and it's running really rich, we can always try adjusting that a little bit. But yeah, that checks out too. It's not like it was way up or way down in a position. So the higher the clip is, the leaner it is at 1/4 to 3/4 throttle. The lower the clip is, the richer it is. So it's lifting up that needle in the jet, and it's allowing more gas flow. But if you raise the clip, it lowers this needle into the jet, causing less gas flow. So yeah, we'll have to mess around with that maybe a little bit later if we get this thing to run right. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the reeds before we put the carb back on. You know, maybe there's something going on with the reeds. We haven't looked at that yet, so it's definitely a possibility. Take a peek. Also, according to the plug, it was running lean, which means there could be a very bad air leak. According to the seller, it was running rich, so I don't know what to believe. Make sure that's good. Check out the reeds. Alright, starting with the manifold here. Not seeing any cracking at all. Looks brand new. Yeah, no cracking whatsoever from that. Looks good. And we've got our reeds coming out. Trying to rip a gasket. All of them are open. Yeah, those look absolutely perfect. So, reeds and manifold check out. Nothing wrong with those at all. Let's take a look at the piston through the intake here. You can see the piston looks perfect. No scratches on the piston at all. Alright, Well, everything's checking out. Let's put the carb back on and see if she fires up. All right, carburetor's back in, we got the reeds back in, and the air box attached back to the carb. Let's get that spark plug in. We're gonna use the same plug that was in there. See if it fires up with that. It just looks like a brand new plug to me. But like I said, maybe it was running really, really lean. So we'll see. If it doesn't start right up, we'll probably have to change the plug. But we have good compression, we have good spark, and now we've got fuel going to the carb. The carb cleaned out, so it should fire. Let's see if she fires up now. All right, let's give this a couple kicks, see what happens. If it takes more than probably 30 kicks to start up, something's going on, and we'll have to check that crank seal on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. You know, the plug looked white, so it could be letting air in from the left-hand side crank seal, or it could be running really rich, letting it in from the right-hand side and burning off oil. We'll see what happens here. All right, who thinks he's gonna fire up here? Choke it. Fired right up. What was that, like third kick? Second kick? It's even idling. Well, that doesn't happen very often. It is smoking quite a bit, and on the throttle it's not, you know, super responsive. So to me it does seem like it's running a little bit rich. But that could be the fuel mixture too. Could be burning off too much oil. Engine sounds really good though. sounds a hair bug. No leaking from anything. Pretty spotless. Yeah, it must be running rich. There's that black substance coming out. Alright, so it started right up, like second, third kick. Sounds pretty good, idle's good, but it seems to be smoking a lot when you do the throttle. So it seems to be a little bit rich to me. The pipe, like the seller said, there's a lot of that black, like oily substance coming out of the pipe, which is most likely unburnt fuel. We're gonna check the plug here and see if that changed colors. If it's still white, you know, that's probably running lean, which is weird. So let's just take a look and see what's going on. That could have been a new plug in there, which I think it was, but you know, maybe it's following plugs, I don't know. But we'll check the plug and then take this thing for a little test drive and see how it goes. All right. Let's see what that plug looks like now. We only ran it for about 10 minutes. Let's see what it's looking like. Oh yeah, it changed color. It's actually pretty brown looking right now. So that must have been a new plug in there. Yeah, I wonder if this thing's following plugs. Well, we'll get that back in and take it for a little test drive. See if it bogs. All right, well, first test drive, you know, it's running and driving pretty decent, but like the seller said, it's pretty boggy. And it kind of breaks up a little bit, like probably quarter throttle to 3/4 throttle. We haven't really gone full speed with it yet because we have such a small yard. But yeah, it's definitely breaking up a little bit. We're gonna check the power valves and see if those are opening. You know, sometimes those can get stuck and not work. So coming over here, there's a nut you can take off, or a cap I should say, right here. And the power valves, right in this setting, it will turn when it's opening. So if that's turning, I think that's counterclockwise. We know that the power valves are opening and everything's good. If it's not and it's just sitting there, then we know that the power valves are not opening. And take a peek in here. Alright, I'm gonna get a flashlight so we can look in there. I'll show you what's going on. So, you guys are looking in here, there's that line going straight up and down. That should be lined up with the L when it's idling or when it's not running. As you rev out the engine, the power valve should open, and this line should be horizontal, lined up with H. If that line does not move right here on this shaft, it doesn't turn that way, the power valves are not opening. Here we go. As you can see, returns to the vertical position with the L. So the power valves are opening all the way. You can see the line going horizontal with the H as we revved out the engine. So that is in fact working properly. Alright, what we're going to do is change out the gas and the oil. The mixture, we're using Klotz 40:1. We're going to put that in instead of what was in there. I think that's been sitting a while. And it looks like it was mixed really heavily. So let's get that out and just see if that makes a difference. I mean, that's like straight purple. Looks like there's a lot of oil in that gas. But maybe not, we'll see. Let that drain off a little bit and then we'll add some of that Klotz 41. Fresh fuel in it, mixed 40:1. Let's see what it sounds like now. That's sounding better. Might just be clearing out. A lot more responsive. All right, that's sounding pretty good. Let's take that for a little rip. Well, I don't know what the seller was talking about, but this thing runs good. Runs really good, and it's definitely not running rich. If anything, it's running lean. You can see there's no black oily substance coming out of the pipe. That'd be leaking all over the swing arm if it was really rich. I don't see any of that. You know, it's normal to have just a little bit at the pipe there, but that could just be from before as well. I don't see any pooling here at all. It's not dripping onto the swing arm. Everything looks good. So it's definitely not running rich. And revs out completely. I mean, we got going fast with this thing. Sounds really good top speed. If anything, it breaks up a little bit when you first give a throttle, but that's it. I mean, it's really close to being jetted perfectly. And these are the stock jets, so you know, it's probably just the temperature affecting it right now. It's like 85 degrees. So I don't think it has any issues at all. So I think we got really lucky on this one. All we had to do is clean up that pilot jet and change out the gas. You know, that gas mixture in the tank might have been a little bit rich. I think they mixed it a little heavy. But other than that, I don't see any other issues. So we're gonna get this thing back home, check the plug, see what that looks like, and then we'll check the oil, make sure that's not milky. But really, I don't see any other issues. It's a really fun, fast bike. Well, first ride on this thing went way better than expected. I was expecting this thing to bog horribly, but it actually sounds pretty decent and revs out completely, goes through all the gears, brakes both work, shifts really smoothly. So right now there's not a single issue with this thing. But we're gonna check the oil again, make sure that's not milky after the first ride. Let's see if oil still comes out. Yep, not milky at all. That is awesome. All right, we'll see if this thing changed colors at all. Oh, that looks perfect. Look at this. You can see it's just really dark brown. It's not quite black. It's really dark brown. And there's no leftover oil on the plug, so it's burning everything off. Yeah, this thing's jetted perfectly. And why wouldn't it be? You know, it's stock. So all the jets in there are stock, plug is stock. So, you know, there's no reason this thing shouldn't be running the way it is. And it's running good. We've got 180 PSI, good spark, carb was just cleaned out. Yeah, this thing's running great. Well, we initially bought this bike thinking there was something majorly wrong with it. We got a pretty good deal for how clean this bike is at $2,000. And the seller said it was running really boggy, was spitting out a bunch of black oil out of the pipe, but we rode it for probably a good hour and didn't see any of those symptoms. Like I said, if anything, it's running a tad lean. So I don't see what the seller was seeing, but you know, everything is fixed and good to go. We checked everything on this bike. It is an awesome running, driving bike, and it looks even better than it runs. So I mean, that doesn't happen very often. So I'm pretty happy with the way this one turned out. I was expecting to dump a bunch of money into this thing, but we got a pretty good deal. I had a couple more packages show up at my door here. Let's see what this one is. infrared thermometer. I do not have one of these. That is awesome. We'll have to test that thing out. This is from Douglas E. Cassier. Enjoy your gift. Thank you very much, Douglas. I will definitely enjoy it. Let's open that puppy up and try it out. Pull. There we go. 81.2. Let's see if we push it at the engine. See the little red dot on there. 81.8. We can actually start the engine up and see if it works here. Going up. Looks like it's working pretty good. Alright, Doug also sent this package. That was really nice of him. Let's see, this says hydraulic jack. Polar Bear Professional Accessories. Let's open that up. See what's in here. Alright, sweet. Let's see. Let's try to set that up. Alright, got this thing put together. Let's give it a test run. This goes underneath the bike here. Alright, they say just stand on it and it will lift up. Oh, that's pretty nice. That's not too bad. And the height is adjustable, so we can adjust the height as well. That's really cool. We'll get good use out of that. Well, that about wraps up the video on the 2001 Honda CR250R. A little bit shorter video today because I was expecting this thing to need a lot more work, but it only took a couple fixes and we had a good running bike, so sorry for the shorter video. Usually my videos are a lot longer than this one. But yeah, this bike turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I can't wait to ride this thing again. It's a blast of a bike to ride. And it looks awesome. Like I said before, this is probably the cleanest 2001 Honda CR250 I've ever seen. Really, really nice bike. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for the next video. And until next time, we are out.